Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle. Once again, it is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 the Midlands, heard around the world on the iHeart radio application. Download today. It is free. The website, put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086. Be a part of the program anytime, any place, anywhere. Clemson, sluggish out of the gates, blazing to the finish in a 66-17 victory over Charleston Southern, but it wasn't enough for the pollsters. More on that in a minute. Also, the SEC. Oof, what are we doing? If the Atlantic Coast Conference was being beaten by the SEC at the rate in which the SEC is currently being beaten by the ACC, I can't imagine what the conversations would be like. Will those conversations exist nationally as the Atlantic Coast Conference continues to do a number on the SEC this season? Not to mention the Alabama Crimson Tide losing in an out-of-conference game to a future conference member, Texas. The Longhorns not only rolling into T-Town, but man, what a performance by Steve Sarkisian's bunch in that game. More on it coming up in a minute. Plus the Mel Tucker situation at Michigan State, an ugly scene seemingly unfolding there. But more locally, talking about your Tigers. Whew. Yeah, that happened. You know, Cade Klubnik struggled early. Most notably, a play where he's rolling out. Dabo Swinney saying after watching it, look, great protection and a good, had guys open downfield. He said, I'm not sure what Cade was thinking. Worst case, you have to take a sack. This is what Dabo Swinney said. Me too. My nephew texted me. And this is not like, when I say my nephew, I'm not talking about like my 12-year-old nephew. I'm talking about my 32, 33-year-old nephew. I think he's 34, actually. And said, man, that looks like something I would do on a video game. And that is what Cade Klubnik looked like. But Dabo Swinney saying, and that interception was in return for a touchdown, momentum for Charleston Southern. Just one of those things where I think Clemson fans tuning in and seeing a similar scenario unfold in the first quarter where Charleston Southern led 14-7 before Clemson tied it up at 14 apiece late in the first quarter. I think a lot of fans are like, oh no, second verse, same as the first. This is reminiscent of the goings-on in Durham. Now, from that point forward, Cade Klubnik was really, really good. And Clemson, as Dabo Swinney said in his teleconference, which you'll hear some of that conversation here on the program today, Dabo Swinney said they look like a Clemson team. And I agree. There was some young talent that got out on the field, made some plays. I thought, like, if I had a big takeaway from this 66-17 victory, just in the sense of who are some guys that really popped for me, and I know he didn't get a ton of carries, but Jay Haynes, the freshman running back, 4 carries, 28 yards, and a touchdown. But his touchdown run was reminiscent, in my opinion, of Mike Bellamy, former Clemson Tiger running back who didn't make it through the system, former 5-star kid. I thought he looked a lot like Mike Bellamy. And I think if you go back and find some highlights of Mike Bellamy and then you run them right beside that Jay Haynes's attempts, I think what you'll see is a smooth running back that's a little bit different than what you're accustomed to seeing at running back. At least that's the way Jay Haynes presented himself to me watching him play on Saturday in the limited, number of snaps that we had. He also had a receiving touchdown as well. So good on Jay Haynes for getting into the end zone twice in his first opportunity with Clemson. We also had a chance to see some backups, Paul Tyson, Hunter Helms. It's one of those things where I think if you are, if you're Clemson at this point, you look at Cade Klubnik and where he is, and this is the point I would make. Cade Klubnik finishes the day 28 of 37, 315 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and it was a mightily ugly interception. I'm not even sure if you're allowed to use mightily and ugly together like that. 2 LYs. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm going to allow it today. It was a mightily ugly interception. They had a lot of Clemson Tiger fans in the stands thinking,
holy crap, I am freaking out.
Yeah. But he turned it around, finished the day. And here's the thing I want to at least say or think through or discuss with you, however you want to kind of iron it out, okay? And I was on the teleconference with Dabo Swinney yesterday, and I thought about asking him this, but I didn't because I don't know the right way to word it, and I'm not sure it's even important. And I do want to also say that I think if I asked the question today, I sound a little bit like a hypocrite. And the reason I think I sound like a little bit of a hypocrite if I were to bring up this question to Dabo Swinney is because I wasn't willing to have the same conversation about quarterback play at Clemson when DJ Uiagalelei was at quarterback. Okay, so here's my point on this. When I was growing up, when many of you were growing up and you were watching college football, a true sophomore quarterback was normally pretty rare. It wasn't something that you would be accustomed to, if you will. It's not the norm, so to speak, let alone a freshman. Most guys, when I was younger, the grooming process took place and you took over maybe as a junior. And sometimes guys waited around until they were seniors in college to take over the reins of a major college football program.
Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Are we clear?
Crystal.
And that's how it was. And then I don't know when it changed. I think a couple of things made it change. I think early entries into the NFL going up likely was a part of that, right? Because if a guy was going to leave after his junior season, then you wanted to get as much out of his career as possible. So you were likely to try to work him in as a sophomore. So you could at least get, say, 2 years of play out of a quarterback. And for Clemson fans, I think the other part of this that has affected it all for Cade Klubnik and how you feel and the expectations you have for this guy is because his predecessors, and I know you don't consider DJ to be his predecessor at this point. You never will, because you would be okay with just dismissing the DJ Uiagalelei tenure as a one-off. That's not going to be the norm in Tiger Town. That's not going to be the way it works at Clemson. We're going to have guys that come in like Trevor Lawrence. We're going to have guys that come in like Deshaun Watson, and they just take off. And the learning curve is not as steep as what you would expect, and we're going to win championships, and we're going to be at the top of the world of college football, and it's not always going to be mistake-free, but it's never going to be so bad that the pieces around him aren't good enough to carry you to a victory. And that, I think, is the mindset that a lot of people have about Cade Klubnik. But back to my hypocrisy on it. I thought about asking Dabo Swinney this question during his Sunday teleconference about the expectations that fans and maybe even coaching staffs now have in young quarterbacks getting into the game and making plays and leading teams to the college football playoff and the national championships and on and on and on. Like, all of a sudden, and I'm not just talking about Clemson here, but across the board, programs are playing younger quarterbacks, it would seem, big programs, forced maybe even in some cases to play younger guys. Jalen Milrose at Alabama, you can make an argument if Alabama had a more seasoned quarterback, they probably don't get beat by Quinn Ewers. But here's Ewers, right? He's got some time under his belt now as a guy who was one of the top prospects in the country when he went to Ohio State, now has some tenure. And look what he's able to do in Tuscaloosa and the way he played. Again, we'll talk more about that in a minute. But the reason I feel like a hypocrite is because when DJ, had to stand in that same fire, when DJ was the former 5-star and wasn't performing up to expectations 2 years ago, that thought not once crossed my mind. Not once did it come into my brain to stand up for DJ and say, hey, coach, and look, when you talk for 2 hours a day, every day, and when you talk for 5 days a week, and when you talk for 50 weeks a year, you can forget some things that you might have said. And some of you might say, wait a second, Swanee. I remember when you said something similar about DJ.
Well, pardon me, Mr. Perfect!
I don't remember it. I don't recall ever saying anything like that about DJ. And so I did. I thought, well, golly, you seem like a hypocrite because you never were willing to stand up and say, well, maybe DJ as a sophomore was just a young guy and that's why he had struggles. Now, flash forward to DJ's junior year where the struggle still continued at Clemson. And at that point, I think the expectation should be that you're ready to go, that you've developed beyond a shadow of a doubt what's necessary to be a top-flight quarterback collegiately. And the Cade Klubniks of the world and the young guys that are playing as sophomores probably still have a lot of growing up to do. And Swinney has championed playing, he talks about it a lot, the preseason game. And I don't know how much a starting quarterback would play in a preseason game. But I think if you flip-flop Charleston Southern and Duke, and you think about the way that Charleston Southern game played out at the beginning, wouldn't you feel more comfortable knowing what you now know going into Duke following a Cade Klubnik performance like what you just saw against Charleston Southern, where, yes, he was woeful in the early goings, got his feet under him, and then finished strong. Again, 28 of 37, 315, 4 touchdowns. One pick, the pick, a pick six. Swinney talks a lot about cleaning that up and how costly turnovers can really make you pay. And we'll get into Swinney's comments after the game coming up as well. The Tigers did return the favor, though. Wade Woodaz opened up a can and had an interception return for a touchdown for the Tigers as well en route to the 66-17 victory over Charleston Southern Saturday. But we never granted DJ that leeway. And I think the role has been skewed in Clemson maybe more so than a lot of schools, by Trevor Lawrence, by Deshaun Watson. By the way, those guys had big days in the NFL yesterday. If you're not following us on our social media channels, do it. We put the highlights up, TikTok, Twitter. We're all over the place. I'm still angry at Instagram. I'm still just ever so frustrated with Meta. They've yet to get either my old Instagram account back, which they say I was impersonating somebody, my own business, perhaps. The logo is the logo. The one you see in the, I guess that's the bottom left for you. Is that over here? How am I doing with my weatherman stuff? Yeah, the bottom left for you. The big logo behind me. Yeah, impersonating that guy. Everything took it our site with our logo. Like, honestly, if you follow me on social media, let's assume that they believed that I was impersonating the Clemson Tigers. Do I use the paw? No. Do I use the exact color orange? No. I mean, I can go on and on. On and on. But anyway, apparently, I was impersonating. I don't even post Clemson stuff. That's the other thing. Like, I rarely post anything they post. Like, I don't repost it. It's ridiculous. But, again, you can follow us. We got a new account over there, Clemson Sports Talk. Thought about making that one Clemson Sports TV. Thought about doing the same on the TikTok account. Maybe I should, to kind of pull them all a little closer to one another. But anyway, right now, we are what we are. We are what we are. Go follow us. But you can check out those touchdowns from Trevor. He had a big day. Touchdown from rushing and passing from Deshaun Watson yesterday. So it was a big day. The NFL, man, we had like eight games going. We had 4 wide most of the afternoon. I had 5 wide during the college football day. My son had a couple of soccer games this weekend. So we were kind of traveling on the road, working, grinding. Thank you to the wife. She did some driving this weekend. And I did some tickling of the keys on the way up, man, putting in transcripts, putting in articles, doing graphics. And if you like what you see from us, come support us. $1 gets you in the door. After that, $63.17 for a year. That dollar, if everything's working right, should get you 3 months. If it doesn't, let me know. At the worst, I think it's going to get you a month. But it should be set up to still give you 3 months. You might say, Swanee, why don't you know for sure? Well, I don't technically control that aspect of it. I have to ask somebody to change that. And it's supposed to be 3. So if it's not 3 when you sign up, you let me know. People did get on us, though. Talk about the struggles of Cade Klubnik. Luke Winston was on the scene in Clemson. And there were students at the game chanting, "We want DJ." We put it out on social media. And then everybody's like, "Oh, they weren't. There was only a few people." I don't know why I have to explain this again, but I will. First off, it's not as if Luke was filming the crowd of students when it first started, right? Like, he's taking pictures of the game. He hears this begin and pulls his phone out and catches just the tail end of it. I agree. It wasn't the entire student section. In my defense, I shouldn't have said student section. I probably should have said some students. Okay, sorry. But they were chanting that. But I don't know that they were necessarily being serious either. Right? Like, I think in some respects, they were kind of doing it jokingly because these are the same kids who cheered for Cade, bringing Cade in a year ago. And I think with the fact that DJ's gone and he was playing good, it was kind of a funny, hey, we're just going to do this. But there were some people doing it. All of that was true. We'll hit a quick break. We'll come back. We'll hear some from Dabo Swinney's post-game comments right after this. Stay with us for more Clemson Sports Talk on Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands and around the world on the iHeart Radio app. And if you're watching live right now on social media, get ready to buckle up because the rest of the show is over on iHeart. Check it out.